because he can't wait. He's like, I'm ready.
It's like I am in my space. I'm
Yes,
ready to go.
he is. All right, we will get started. I know people are going to probably continue to trickle in, and I know that some of you will be watching this on YouTube later. So welcome, everyone. We are going to talk personnel management today, and I know that's a very broad term and a broad field, but really what we're going to focus on are some effective tips, tools, and techniques, especially during this time as we're bringing staff back, our caseloads are starting to increase, and our clinics are starting to recover. So with that said, I have two very special guests, well, three very special guests, if you include Brian. I'm Nicole. I am the Chief Development Officer here at MEG. And of course, we have Brian Gallagher, who is the founder of MEG Business Management. We have Billy Cialfredi, who is the owner of Cialfredi and Associates. Look, I said it right the first time, Cialfredi and Associates.
Nice job.
I messed it up the second time, sorry. And then we also have Jordan Ford, who is the owner of ABC PT out in Washington. And Billy is a practice owner in New Hampshire. So we'll get, again, two different perspectives and geographical area location rundown of how things are going in their part of the country. I do want to make sure we put up some of the links. So we have the contact us form that you can fill out if you have any specific questions about your particular practice. Amy will be putting those up in the chat box. And then we also have the personnel management toolkit that we are offering for you to fill out a form and get that toolkit. And what that includes is our status sheet, some onboarding checklists, as well as the performance appraisal. So that's a very nice toolkit for you to utilize. So today, what I want to start with is I'm going to start with you, Billy, and I just want you to kind of give us a little background on your experience within these last couple of months. How has your clinic been affected? And then if you can share where you're at right now in terms of, bringing personnel back and kind of give us a little bit of lay of the land of what you're experiencing out in New Hampshire.
Okay, sure. So we've finished off last year as our strongest year ever. It was really strong. So we had a really good starting point coming into this. We had saved our money, put it aside for the tax liabilities and all that stuff. And we still had a fair amount of money in the checkbook. So when this thing hit, we're better than some folks here. There was a person who was a medical resident. We're in the area of Dartmouth College and Dartmouth Hitchcock Medical Center. And one of the residents was exposed to the virus early on and did not go in quarantine, but went to a party. And there was an exposure here right in the beginning. And it's a relatively highly educated group of folks here.
Sure.
And so there was a lot of concern to handle that shutdown. So I made the decision to shut down early when I knew that there was no way, if we continued to operate, that we could definitely prevent the virus from coming into the office. And at that time, I think it would have been really looked very poorly upon the community.
Sure.
And so, a good example where I think everybody's situation is unique in different parts of the
Absolutely.
country. So we did that. I furloughed all but 2 staff members.
Okay. And how long were you shut down for?
Shut down for 6 weeks.
Okay, wow.
We did that and then have begun to reopen again. So we jumped on to telehealth services a week after and got that up and going. And that's been a nice piece for us. And then 6 weeks later, we started to reopen with a couple of therapists and brought people back on incrementally based on the demand.
Sure.
This week, we brought back our 8th and final therapist of our original group. So we're back at that point right now and going forward.
have you had any pushback from the staff or any trouble with either the furlough or the bringing them back part of things, as well as the ramping up? Because I think that's one of the concerns that we're hearing from some of our clients is, how do I go from, maybe one patient an hour and then getting back kind of to normal, so to speak?
We've had no resistance at all. We've just had tremendous enthusiasm for people looking forward to coming back. We have a very tight-knit group. That's been honed over many years of just better and better and better. And we have an environment that people really enjoy working together. They don't have to be best friends, but it's created such a comfortable, positive environment that people that come to the clinic, as far as patients go, will spontaneously say, I don't know, I like to go there. I'm not sure what it's about, but I feel good when I go, and I like being there. People are smiling. So, and the staff is like that. And so it's in a sense, in some ways, a less stressful environment than a lot of other people are used to in a lot of their lives. And some people, I think, have never worked in an organization where it has been really comfortable and positive.
Right.
That is like that. So we've got that, and we work hard to keep that. And it's something you have to shepherd. It's not like it just stays that way forever. It does not. People's lives change, come and go, and things like that. And you just have to be able to be transparent and handle that. So our staff has been very excited to come back. If you want me to talk a little bit about how we looked at that, I can do that now. Or
what I'd like to know is what are some of the things that you've put into place that have contributed to that? Because, it is great when you bring great people on, and I know you're a longtime Meg client, so I know you've been using
all the gray hair.
Brian is like, he is one of my longest standing clients of all time, so which is awesome. But if
so
you
wait a
can
minute,
share...
wait a minute. I just want to be clear. So am I the one giving you the gray hair, Billy? Is that what you're trying to say?
No, but you're losing some, Brian. So we're even.
That's right. It's happening.
That's right. But if you can share some of the approaches that you've used, and part of it is knowing how to bring the right people onto your team, right? But then it's also knowing how to manage the staff that you bring on.
Sure. Well, the helpful thing is if you've managed them really successfully beforehand, that makes the big difference of bringing them back on, which was being very decisive about what we were going to do and communicating to the staff what we were going to do.
Sure.
And how it was going to play out, and the commitment that, look, we are going to bring all of you guys back.
Yeah.
In a decision manner where it's like it's going to happen, and so I think they felt supported about that, and that all is important and helpful. Key thing was for me was to look at our working environment and try to figure out, well, can I make it happen on paper, dollars and cents, to do this? Because with where we are, it's not like the rodeo and some of the places in Texas, because we've got some folks coming up from Texas that are going to join our staff, that
sure.
We have to have enough separation in space in a way that would have people feel safe. So in doing that, we had to re-engineer the process, and we decided to start out with 45-minute treatments where we used to see people every 30 minutes for follow-ups, and people would be there for an hour with people doing other parts of exercise and things like that. Well, we had to do away with that.
Sure.
So in doing that, we had to look at the numbers, and it's like, oh, that cuts our percentage down by maybe 25% or more of how many people you can see per therapist.
Right.
So you do the numbers, and can you still make a go of it? Or was your overhead so high that it was like the gelato place that just shut down, very successful place. Yeah. We've had businesses that they can't make the numbers work.
Right.
So knowing that I could do that, and then really explaining to the staff clearly about how it's going to work, but why we're doing it that way, and then the ramifications of that were really important, so that when we brought people on. We first had a new reorientation. So as we re-engineered everything, no more paper, everything's electronic.
Right.
Then everyone needed to know how it was all going to work and working together, front office and back office and staff. And also that for me, one of the hallmarks of our organization is the really close relationship we have with our patients.
Right.
And that's the thing that builds the trust with folks. And in this particular time, people coming back, especially if you have a significant Medicare population, how much do they trust you is really important. So I really hit home about the thing that we do well, we've got to really do well in the sense of having the very close relationship and communication with our patients so that they really had that trust to come back in and to come back in for other follow-up visits and things like that. So we did that. We had management meetings every day for the first week and a half that were not necessarily long, but we were always touching base much more than we did a usual one time a week, because we needed to see how things were operating and make changes as we went. So that was one thing. The other thing was keeping a very close eye on the schedule and with our front office staff. So being very aware how many new patients are coming in, how many follow-up patients are coming in, what kind of scripting was being done, were people getting scheduled fully or not? And if not, what were the barriers? Because I did explain very clearly about, look, all right, so we've run out of our accounts receivable. We're just about out there. We have some money in the checkbook. How quickly we ramp back up is going to be the difference between how much of a loan we have to take out and how much of a burden that would be on us if we have a significant loan.
Sure.
We just paid off all of our loans last year, and it was a big hurrah for the whole staff.
Right.
And so it was really just being very clear about the financial situation, also about, look, bringing you on, we're going to bring you on when the next person is, just about full. And so I was watching very closely, anticipating the next week or two and giving people a heads up. We're going to be ready to bring you on. We're going to be ready to bring you on.
Yes.
And moving it up that way. So it was very, very tight.
Yeah. It's systematic, it seems, like well planned out, where it's not just like, oh, let's roll the dice and try and, bring X amount of people. It just seems like a very systematic approach to ramping back up again.
It was. And, I had gotten a PPP loan, which,
okay.
In those early stages, I didn't really understand clearly, what each of the loans were from the standpoint of they weren't clearly defined, and how they're going to operate weren't clearly defined, and now they're getting redefined. And so I just decided it was great that I got it, but I got ample money as a backup in the from the bank at Prime, and so I knew that I had that thing settled, and I wasn't going to bring everybody back on to sit around twiddle their thumbs. That was, I think, the original intent of the PPP, that you just keep everyone employed and paid. And I decided I'm not going to do that. I'm not. And so that's worked out for me from the standpoint of, then I didn't worry about, well, I have all these people that I'm paying. I hope the government comes through the way that they're saying they are, and when is that going to come through? And now I have this huge loan that I'm hoping they're going to forgive me with. So I didn't do that, and that was a good decision for me to do it that way.
Very good. And I think that's smart. And I know, Brian, you talked a lot about, having your cash flow analysis kind of mapped out, so you can make strategic decisions like, when to bring staff back and how many staff to bring back and things of that nature.
And I hope everybody listening to Billy can really pick up on a couple key elements from just the conversation. I mean, he just speaks so nonchalantly about it, but I think the walkaway here, and again, if you listen to our podcast and you come to our live Zoom chat, I want you to walk away with tools, right? I don't want you to walk away with bright ideas, because that's lecture, that's consulting, that's, listening to a book or audio. Bright ideas are one thing, but Billy actually exhibited the characteristics of leadership And the way he did it was he built confidence in his staff by saying, I've done this. And he was completely transparent with his staff. I got myself a secured line of credit. I've mapped out my cash flow projections. I've evaluated my community, and I am not going to run a business that is going to have even 1%, 5%, 3% chance of furthering the exposure of this virus to others within the community we serve. We have been here for over 3 decades caring for these people. I'm going to be the last person in line on this planet that's going to potentially forward this virus and create greater harm. And his staff rallied behind that transparency. He kept his commitments. You know, I tell people, you want to be a good leader who's respected? Go to the meetings on time when you say you are. Do the things that you say you're going to do. Eat organic if you say you're going to eat organic. You think these are small, silly little things, but the reality is your staff is watching you all the time. And they see Billy say, this is what we're going to do. And then he does it. And then he says, I'm going to shore up the company because I'm going to be fiscally responsible with PPP funds, but yeah, I'm not going to be beholden to the government if I don't have to. Those are character things. And he talks about them so nonchalantly, like one after the other. And the reason why he can do that is because the staff that he's assembled from the beginning, like he said, before I run into crisis, let's make sure that I've been running my staff through a greater degree of transparency. I expect transparency from them to me, from me to them, so that when crisis hits, we know who's who on the farm, right? We're not just trying to get to know who's around and how they're going to treat us, right? They knew Billy going into it, crisis or no crisis, how we were going to come out of it. And the last point I want to make, if you're going to have a great cake that everyone at the dinner table is going to enjoy, if you bake it all together, like Nicole has those 15 children, she gets them all around the kitchen table and they all bake the cake together and everybody has something to do with it. I'm telling you, when it comes time to eat that monster cake, it's 10 times better than the store-bought cake. Why? Because they've all participated in the process of producing the cake. Billy got them to see, we're going to make it. We're going to make it through our collective participation. So I hope you guys have taken some notes on this Zoom chat from what Billy just said. He just went through it so casually, but those are key elements when people are always saying, Brian, how can I become a better leader? Well, that's what we try to teach you, is those elements. And obviously Billy and I have been together for a long, long time, but he just does it naturally. And I'm going to kick this back to Nicole because
I will say one other thing that I picked up on that I noticed that you said, and this is going to be my transition to talking to Jordan, because in our conversation yesterday, you actually brought this topic up, but this, trying time as it was, is also an opportunity to evaluate your systems within your current practice. And like you said, we got rid of all paper, like that's something that you evaluated and said, hey, we don't need that. And that's actually a more efficient system to go paperless. So I want to talk to you, Jordan, and have you share a little bit about how you've used this time as an opportunity to kind of self-reflect and look at your own practice and see what systems can be better and what can be changed.
Definitely. I had we had a really interesting start of the year. We bought our own building, and this has been something we've been working towards for the last 4 years. Got all the construction, finally got the permits, and then COVID started happening. And it was this really scary time because you're looking at like, oh, are the movers still going to be able to make it? Like, we already terminated our lease. We have all these deadlines, and we ended up moving, and then the stay-at-home order was put into place like within the same week. And so it was definitely, we went from highest numbers we've ever seen to probably dropped 55%, lost 55% of our patients within a week. And, we just did this giant move, we just did this remodel. And so it was definitely a situation where you're like, I have to make decisions now. And, I think, Brian always says that if you let go of, the worst employee, the problem employee, your numbers will be better. Or, like you just can't keep somebody who isn't able or isn't the best fit, best personality on the team. So we actually did make the decision to let somebody go right before COVID became even a bigger issue. And then with the move, it was a crazy time. So I basically went and to every employee and sat them down and was like, okay, this is what's going on. This is what I can do for you. This is what the state can do for you. I'm giving you options to partially furlough, completely furlough, and we're going to reduce our schedule and basically work at half time. And, you know, hope that works. And, you know, I had such great conversations with the staff, and I think it's kind of what you guys were saying. It's about being open, you know, being honest, kind of saying this is where we're at, and then giving them the freedom to kind of talk about their fears, giving them the chance to make the decision that's really best for them. Like we have some employees who are pregnant, and so, you know, they decided to furlough during this time, and we had other people who were like, I'm going to be here, and it was a really, really like team building like environment where I had people who came on the weekends to help us move and prep the entire space to be ready. And so we did a huge move, furloughed about half the staff, and, you know, reduced our schedule to less than 50%, all within a week. It was
because you were you kind of ground zero? Like it started out in Seattle, right? So I don't know how close you are to that area, but it kind of happened quick for you, I would imagine.
And we have two clinics. Our second clinic is an older population, and so that was even hit even harder. You know, we do see a lot of a wide range of populations. So again, there's just a lot of fears. And, you know, we had a drop-off list of about 300 people once we started opening back up to normal. So it was quite the adventure.
Yeah, I can understand that. Now, have you noticed, since you have kind of separated with more of the problem staff members, have you noticed a change in the dynamic amongst your team? Because I know sometimes it's like you don't even realize that there is a, you know, staff problem until, especially when we have a chaos situation and you kind of see people's true colors sometimes. So it brings it to light. So have you noticed that there's been a change since you've made some staffing changes?
Well, actually, one of the people we furloughed, they took about a month furlough off. When they returned, they were still kind of operating on a very kind of negative, very anxiety-ridden mindset, to the point where they're being extremely negative to patients and staff. And I mean, we let them go the second day they were back. And so, you know, again, it was about, and that you could tell the teamwork of the people who were here the month where we were working part-time, and then have that one person return and then create an energy shift and like a mood change. It was so night and day that it was the easiest decision to make. And we've made some hiring. We've hired a PT. We're going to hire another PT. So, I mean, we're almost back to normal. And, you know, I think we really use this time to kind of create, you know, if we use the COVID, we use this kind of pause in our normal life to become stronger, to become better, to make sure that we have all the right people in the right seats. I mean, we probably lost, you know, we also lost some admin staff who just didn't want to return or went in different hours, or so I mean, I probably lost about 4 people, but it gives us a chance to bring people who really want to be here and want to be a part of the team, and who are really bringing, it's, again, like Brian says, it's about equal exchange and exchange and abundance, you know, and I think that's what we have now. And so we were also able to get PPP loan, you know, with, which was great, especially with the move. But with that, again, we're trying to be as responsible as possible with that money, because again, we don't know how much is going to be, forgivable. We don't know what the government's going to do or what changes they're going to make. So we're putting away money in savings that we would have been paying. And then we didn't really change a lot besides the people who decided to not furlough, or the people who decided to come back from furlough. We're giving them opportunities to do more projects. But, you know, I didn't think it was fair for the people who were here the entire time to pay people who weren't here. And so, you know, if it hurts us in the long run, you know, with the PPP forgiveness, we made that decision that it's better to really acknowledge the people who were present.
I can understand that. And Brian, I'd like you to weigh in because I know she's speaking to a lot of your training points that we train on so heavily in Meg.
Yeah,
Meg
she's
Academy.
like a walking billboard of all the
Yeah.
management concepts that we talk about.
Yeah.
So well done, Jordan.
That's awesome.
2 full
And
elections.
I just want to make a point. You guys both had your best years last year, and I kind of see that trend upward. And that's amazing that you've had such a long-standing relationship with Meg. And, you know, again, it's not a coincidence. You guys put the work in, and the training does pay off.
And it's amazing because they're in completely different markets, right?
Yeah,
you know, Billy's in Lebanon, New Hampshire, and she's in Tacoma. So, you know, for those of you watching, you know, you're more than welcome to reach into Nicole or myself, and we'll connect you to either one of these two and just talk to them about their experiences and why their practices are doing so well. You know, it's not me. Trust me, Nicole's always doing that and pumping them out. It's the people that work with me. It's the team around me, but it's you, you know, it's you. It's your willingness to really confront what you need to confront and say, you know what, this may be hard. It may be a little bit of a Band-Aid that has to be ripped off, but I'm going to do it because at the end, it's going to be in the best interest of those that I have assembled and working with me each and every time. So I think each and every day. So I think it's important. I want to comment on 2 points. The first point I want to make is Jordan clearly identified that I have these individuals, these staff members that have been working with us, and we ran into this crisis. We had to deal with the furlough. We have to bring people back, but it gave her a chance. It gave her an opportunity once the quiet hit, right? And this is going to lead me to my second point. But once you're at the stay-at-home order and the randomity of life slows way down, and you're able to sit and reevaluate, you start realizing, like, you know what? I realize I only really want to come back to work and run this clinic with those with whom agree with the vision, mission, and company culture that we have here. Because look at how calm things have just happened because of an external economic event. Again, it was a medical event at first, but it turned into an external economic event. It's not like Jordan mismanaged her funds or misran the business. It's something that was done to us in business. And so Jordan looked around and said, well, you know what? I know this fact from training. You cannot effectively manage over disagreement. And for those of you watching, I hope you jot that down on a piece of paper. I don't care who you are. I don't care what business you're in. You are not going to be successful at managing over disagreement. So Jordan clearly said, as I reopen, just like Billy, and we, you know, I loved your approaches. I've had to talk people down off this ledge of getting my PPP funds. I'm going to bring everybody back. They're all going to sit around, play poker and eat Dunkin' Donuts. And I'm going to hope I have enough money to last 8 weeks and census comes back up and then they just hit strong. Not everybody could do that, right? Scaling up was both of your approaches. And I thought that was effective. I thought that was great. My second point is with Jordan really making that point that, you know, I looked at my staff and I said, everybody who's going to come in is going to come back into this private golf course earning their place. And this was an opportunity to do it. And you did that very well, Jordan. You know, last point, and I'm kicking it back to you, Nicole, is just in this last week alone, and Nicole, you know this, I have been catching up because everything's kind of settling down, and I like to be on the front lines of helping owners, right? We're all PTs. And as a PT, I went into physical therapy because the greatest happiness and satisfaction I get is helping another. So now that we have Meg, it's helping other owners. And so I want to be on the front lines of like talking to owners, like, what's your challenge? What's your problem? What's your barrier? How can I help you? What can we connect you with? What is the advice, the guidance, the direction we can? So this week I got back on those lines and I'm working that. Both of the owners were out 7 to 10 years in practice, both of them doing about 100 plus or minus visits a week. And both of them said, you know what? As a result of these last 2 months, I realized that I probably, and they said in no uncertain terms, they said in different ways, they said, I realized that I've probably been going down the wrong life path. I've been missing dinners. I've been working lots of hours. I've been sacrificing my home life with my kids. And now all of a sudden I've been home with my kids 24/7, homeschooling, doing this, throwing the ball, doing that. And now that my business is reopening or re-expanding, you know what? I want to do this different. I want to go back to having a work-life balance. I get it. I see what I've been missing. Can you help me, Brian, get my business viable, thriving, you know, in this new environment, in this new climate, but yet I don't want to give up what I've just experienced in the last 2 months being home, looking at the silver lining of this horrific event. And it's been such a pleasure to work with them and say, yes, that's absolutely the life you should be leading. And maybe it took this event for so many owners who are listening right now to cognite and be like, you know what, I don't want to go back to 55, 60 hours a week, and sacrificing my personal life with my husband or with my wife or with my children or with my own hobbies, you know. I think that's a really good, I think this is a really good thing for people to really hang on to moving forward, and don't give that up. So I just want to end it with that, Nicole. I think it's really been rewarding this week to be talking to these new owners and connecting them with how we can get them that work-life balance and how we can get them that distance and oversight so that they can actually be a coach to their own practice and not be thumping the treatment table 40 hours a week.
Yeah.
I'm taking great pleasure lately in helping people connect to that. And Jordan, you really said, we're growing, we're expanding, but guess what? We're going to do it with the best of the best and the brightest of the brightest. We can't afford to be distracted with these elements, you know, not that they're not bad people, not that they're not good people, but they're not contributing to the rest of the people, and you got to protect the rest of the people.
Right. Exactly. And it's not fair to your employees who are pushing really hard and being very productive and being very positive. It's not fair to them.
Right.
So
and
I thank you for sharing. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that, Jordan. I appreciate that. I do want to bring up some of our clients' concerns. Again, we try and share some of the concerns that our clients are currently going through right now. And I'd like to get any of your perspectives on some of these issues. One of them happens to be this idea of rebuilding. So, you know, the client made an analogy, you know, it takes a few minutes to chop down a tree. How long does it take to regrow? And I think, you know, many people are feeling that way. Like, you know, we kind of got the rug swept out from underneath us, and now we have to get into this regrowth mindset. And I know obviously it's going to look different if you are in New York City versus if you are in, you know, New Mexico. But I'd like to get your perspectives of what your thoughts are on that particular question. And Billy, if you want to try and give a stab at it.
Sure. I do think it is very variable. People are in such different situations. People that did not have to close down, although maybe they've been staying open, they were down to 30% of their business.
Right.
And, you know, what's the springboard that kind of helps them to accelerate back up, where we shut down fully, but we are accelerating back up quickly. You know, all the people that had their surgery on hold, all of a sudden there's this big explosion. And then the other facilities, you know, if they're operating differently in the sense of having to not be able to spend as much time with people, they can't see the volume that they were seeing. So there's an opportunity there. I think it's very individual, but I mean, for me, I mapped it out and looked at, well, how many, you know, people can each person see, and have a marketing and PR strategy in place to let people know that you're open, let them know that you are providing a very safe environment that they can trust, and keep engaging with them as much as you can to reinforce that. So we kept on Facebook with enough posts and things regularly to stay in touch with the public that way. Our website stuff has continued to be added to. We did things that way. Any opportunity I had to be on a local community thing, adding to that. And, you know, we're about to put out our next newsletter, which Brian probably always laughs at because it's actually a paper newsletter that people still, it still works in our
Okay.
Did you say e-paper? I'm not sure.
There's an e-version of it. But it really, in pictorial view, it communicates that level of the environment that we're in, the tone of the staff, the kind of things that would go on that would help to reinforce the idea that it's safe, and that it's positive, and that we are open, which I think is a very important part of reopening again or gearing back up. It's really staying in touch and in communication with the community, with your providers. We just sent out a letter to physicians, all of our physicians, to let them know. And I sent them emails earlier about, hey, we're going to be opening. We put up video walking around the clinic. Hey, we're open. This is what it looks like. This is all the things we did the sanitation aspects that we put in place, and all those things, so that people would have a chance to continue to be engaged. So, you know, for us, being closed for 6 weeks, it's gonna, well, next week we are full. We are full, and we have all of our therapists working.
It's awesome.
That's
Now, we're
wonderful.
still down about 25% because of the numbers.
Sure.
We're going to tweak our program by going to 40-minute treatments, and bringing in support staff so that we can just go from one to the other without the extra 5 minutes. And that brings us an extra 5 visits a person times 8 people. That's like bringing on an extra person.
That's
So,
a numbers game.
You know,
Hey
for
Billy,
us,
hey Billy, I just want to say this, you know, for a lot of people, they've been hearing us saying this for weeks, right? This is an opportunity to Nicole's question, to rebuild your clinic. Okay. This is an opportunity for you to do a new business strat plan, right? And for a lot of people, what that meant was, you know, and which I've endorsed and supported, but you're giving the A and B options here. And I just want to point out A and B. A option is to look at the future environment and say, you know what? I really do have to find a way to have 20% of my gross revenue coming in from cash-based services, whether that be dry needling, laser, newbie e-stim, nutritionalist in my clinic, whatever it may be. I'm going to rethink my business model so I can do that. Or I'm going to think of mobile services, or I'm going to think of telehealth services. So basically speaking, they've looked at their business strategic plan going into 2020. Now they're coming out of the crisis and they're saying, I'm rewriting my business strategic plan to be greater diversification, greater income verticals. So I have a stronger, wider, broader foundation in which to weather the next pandemic should it happen. But Billy, you're mentioning, I didn't need to do that. I had a great business strat plan. I have great staff. We have great service. You know what we're going to do? We're going to modify how we roll out of this pandemic so we can continue to deliver that high quality of care in a scaled fashion. And we're going to have a strat plan that's just going to ease us right back into where we left off. And you know what? That is equally as effective and as important for everybody to be listening to think about. And if you haven't gotten our playbook off of the website, please get the playbook. And Billy, what you mentioned, we wrote a community care flyer where we created a sample and a template. That's also on our resource tab. So if you guys like what Billy's saying, you're thinking, I do not have to I just need to really scale my business back up. Take advantage of those tools. Listen to what Billy's saying, because you will just incrementally go back up by leading your company in that direction. So I think that's well done, Billy. It doesn't mean you have to scrap your model altogether and start doing something that you've never even wanted to do until this happened.
Yeah, and a couple things Billy said too before, I think our personnel management toolkit will help with. You know, you kind of have some different expectations where you're expecting the therapist to see a patient on the half hour versus now it's every 40 minutes. I think reestablishing and revisiting their status sheet is what we call that. So we can
for sure.
set those expectations so that they fully understand what, you know, is expected of them, as well as you said you almost had to reorient your staff to the clinic. So going through as part of the personnel management toolkit, the orientation checklist, which you may need to include some COVID specific items on there so that they, you know, completely understand what all the new systems are and processes are that you're utilizing. So I thought, you know, that kind of tied in nicely with that personnel management toolkit. So thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
You did kind of answer the next question, which is great, which is how do I make my patients feel comfortable coming back and my staff feel comfortable? And I think you've done an amazing job with that. I think a video is worth 1,000 words. You know, I've said it a million times on here. So if you can show them what you're doing to remain safe. The second part of the question is how do I go about hiring and keeping therapists? And I know, Jordan, I want to point this question to you because I know you're in that process of, you know, being active on the hiring lines. What insights can you give in terms of hiring and, you know, keeping staff?
I think again, with keeping staff, you know, really about teamwork, really about having that open communication, really about being open and honest with where you're at, what your expectations are, and really listening to make sure that there is no issues. And if there are issues, then you can resolve those so everyone can move forward together. You know, and I do think, again, making the hard decisions sometimes is really, really important for morale. It's really important for growth. And so, you know, we did do that. You know, and now we're in the hiring process. We just hired one person. She's been here about 3 weeks. She is fantastic. And then we're interviewing for another hire, which I think it just makes us more aware of how the importance of having a good fit, the importance of having somebody whose values align with yours. And, you know, Brian really, really talks about, you know, the importance of interviewing, and, you know, you make sure you get the whole tour and really try to ask those questions that kind of get more insight into this person and if they're a good fit. So I feel really lucky to be able to have this time to kind of make a better decision and to make a stronger clinic moving forward. And,
awesome.
You know, it's as scary as this past few months have been, you know, I do really think that we will be a stronger team and a stronger company because of it. And then kind of what Billy was saying, you know, really just making sure patients are comfortable too.
Yes.
We want to make sure that everyone who's coming in, we're getting their temperature scan, that they're wearing masks, that they feel that the cleaning and the care that we're giving them makes them feel comfortable coming in. Because I know,
Sure.
you know, we still have some patients who don't feel comfortable returning. And, you know, anytime a patient gives us feedback, we want to make sure that, you know, we really listen to them. Like we might move a patient, an employee's on Tuesday to Wednesday just because Tuesday's a little full. So we want to make sure that we're giving that proper social distancing as well, as much as possible.
Perfect. That sounds great. And what Jordan's referring to when she says, you know, Brian's hiring approach, we do have a 5-phase hiring process. So please, if you want to learn more about that, because it's a very structured approach to going about getting the right people on your team and, you know, playing on your private golf course, as we like to say, there is a very systematic approach to doing that. Okay, that's great. I think one of the biggest questions that we get is kind of trying to figure out what that new normal is. I think, again, it's going to vary greatly of where we're at in the country. Brian, I would like to hear some of your insight on that particular topic, is how do we go about finding what that new normal is?
All right, very good. I think it's going to be somewhat regional, to be honest with you. You know, fortunately, we have thousands of owners all across the country, and we're in communication on a regular basis through our private Facebook group. And so we learn a lot about what's going on in different areas. You know, if you're in Idaho or if you're in Texas, it's like, hey, we're down 10%, you know, and we're trying to do our best, right? Billy was closed for 6 weeks. So, you know, the normal is going to be somewhat relative to where we are in the country. I will say this, I love people to walk away with tools from this discussion. And, you know, to Jordan's point about bringing staff in, being transparent, being in higher levels of communication with your staff. Well, here's one thing you can do. And I know Billy's was one of the earliest adopters of this technique, and he might speak personally about how it worked in his clinic, but it's something that we teach our clients all over the country, is have 10-minute meetings that are for the employee. It's not like you go in with an agenda. You're not going in to teach or train or do anything. It's their 10 minutes just to talk about what's going on in their life, just to talk about how things are going with them. You know, there's 2 things I know that causes a real problem for so many people, and that is inconsistency and lack of confidence. So if you really want to bring your staff back to your second and third point there, Nicole, how do we get staff coming back and understanding and contributing and, you know, gaining their agreement and being comfortable? You have to eliminate the risk of fear. You have to eliminate the risk of inconsistency or lack of confidence. The only way I know to do that is communication is the universal solvent to all problems. So if you're going to have a problem with an employee, it's most likely because you failed to communicate, or you haven't communicated enough, or you have communicated ineffectively. And
Perfect.
One of the easiest ways to get around that is just have a 10-minute meeting with each and every one of your staff. Just schedule it in the books. Just sit down with them. Just hear. I don't care if they talk about their puppies, or in Nicole's case, you know, the chickens and the cows, or whatever's going on in Wisconsin. Just talk about what's important to them. It's meaningful because you're showing how much you appreciate them as a person. So that's that. And then to Billy's point, he talked about videos. And I want to say, people want to know, well, all right, well, what do you really mean by videos and how do I actually use it? Here's my tip for the videos. iPhone, run the white headphones with the mic. They sound great. Get a little cord extender, plug it into your iPhone. Somebody just sits there, holds the iPhone. Video should be 3 minutes or less. sit on a table in your clinic and you're like, hi, I'm Billy Giaffretti. I'm the owner of Giaffretti and Associates. And I'm here to talk to you about what we are currently doing here within our clinic to provide you the safest, most effective and productive environment so we can resolve your conditions in the shortest time frame possible. Let me give you a quick little look around the clinic, and let me show you some of the new policies and procedures that we've implemented to protect not only our patients, but also our staff. And let me just introduce you to some of the environmental reengineering we've done. And then he wraps it up. I mean, that's it. Like, just give them that confidence. Just give them that certainty that you have grabbed a, I see that today in my email, APTA PPS issued a playbook. I'm like, great, I issued one 2 weeks ago. Take both, stick them together, and make sure you're covering your bases, right? So I just wanted to make sure that you guys walk away with like two little like actual tools there. To Nicole's point, you wanted me to talk about like what the new normal is. I think the new normal is a graduated approach. I think it's fair for us to be cognizant of the reality that we've just gone through a worldwide pandemic, and it's been a horrific event. So let's be sensitive no matter where we are. Scale your business back as your, and the new word is patient behavior. In Billy's neck of the woods, patient behavior may be very like, you know, if I'm not liking what I see, I may not come back. I'm very worried. If you're, you know, in other parts of the country, patients are coming in, no one's worried about, but still be mindful of the patient behavior, be mindful, scale up. This isn't about the money. We're never focusing on the money. We're focusing on the ability for you to exchange an abundance with your patients, giving them an abundance of care, an abundance of concern, an abundance of comfort. Because look, one thing I know for sure, there's two things going on with every patient that walks in your clinic. Number one, they're anxious. Every patient's anxious. I don't care who they are. They're anxious to a small degree, big degree. It really just depends on what's going on with them. New grads, if you're listening right now, get this in your mind, because every single person sitting in front of you is putting on a happy face. Maybe, maybe they're not, but they are anxious. And number two, they're not feeling well. I mean, if they're feeling great, they're not going to come see you, right? So let's just, for as much as we should have learned that in PT school, and we should be catering to the fact that the patient sitting in front of us is anxious and not feeling well, let's think about the fact that they're also nervous and fearful now. And we need to address that. So the new normal, Nicole, is training your staff to be more mindful, more in tune with the reality of where the patients are now walking in from, because it's not the same, even though it's looking like the same Betty Lou that you treated, 3 months ago, but it's not. She's had a horrific experience, and you need to be sensitive to that. Scale your practice back, tell your staff what your targets are, and get their participation in achieving those targets in a graduated approach. But by all means, as a CEO, I would surely set, this is just me talking, I would surely set October 1, barring any other horrific event, I would set October 1 as I'm back. Like, I am back 100% where we were, no ifs, ands, or buts. I will scale it. But by the first day of the fourth quarter of 2020, rock and roll, baby. We are back. We are hitting our schedules. We have made the adjustments. We are going to keep good hygiene, good sanitation. We're going to keep some of these really nice policies that we put in place. But we are going to treat our community like there's no tomorrow. That's what I would do.
Very good. And I think that pretty much summarizes all of our client questions in some way, shape, or form we've answered in this panel. You guys have been amazing. What I would like to do is just have you each leave us with a closing thought. So Billy, if you can just start us off, and just, if a tip, a trick, a tool, a personnel management strategy, anything you can leave us with in closing for all our listeners.
Well, something that has not been said before by Brian.
Yeah. Good luck.
Yeah, well, I mean, the interesting thing for me was, Brian was talking before, being at home. I was going through some of this myself. I was like, I'm not, why am I not feeling quite so happy? It's like I realized I've not seen my patients and I'm not seeing my staff. And that's really what gives me a high degree of satisfaction. And also realizing that I was going to get kicked out where they're not going to let me come back and treat patients now. So it's like, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
And it's the great deal of satisfaction that I have with working with a wonderful group of people that are bright, that are hardworking, that they like to solve problems and be together. And I'm delighted to be there. And that's doing that and helping people is it's like, well, that's my mission here. So it's just kind of really going into the next phase, and being grateful that there's something to do, helping people, and doing it really well is such a high degree of satisfaction. It's
Agreed. We are meant to be together. We are meant to be productive individuals. So I couldn't agree more. Jordan, can you leave us with a closing thought?
Yeah, I think with this whole COVID, I think the biggest things that I've kind of taken away from this is how important it is just to have that communication, that teamwork. And I mean, you could really get through anything when you have a team that is behind you, that supports your values, and flexible. You have to be flexible.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it just, I think, just really makes me appreciate the people we have, and makes me really proud that I had people who are willing to kind of do anything to make it work, safety-wise, and for this company and for themselves. And so, yeah, I mean, I think it was just kind of a really touching kind of show of we've got such a good team, and just kind of use this to continue to strengthen that team and continue to strengthen the organization with that kind of quiet period.
I totally agree. You want to almost fight for each other, you know, for the common purpose of getting through this and coming out stronger on the other side. So yes, I absolutely agree and totally appreciate that insight. Brian, what can you leave us with in closing?
I'm speechless.
You've got 2 minutes, Brian. 2 minutes.
I don't know what I could offer this. I'm going to say two different things really quick. First one is, if you guys have been catching those commercials on TV that, you know, about COVID-19 that says we're all in this together and that's how we're going to get to the other side, I think this is a great opportunity for you to continue that message within your own community. I think shooting videos that we're all in this together and this is what we're doing about it is really important. And I think going above and beyond and finding ways that you can do something about it is also equally important. I know a lot of our clients, and Nicole, you know too, several of our clients got their hands on PPE equipment, you know, supplies, masks, gowns, stuff like that, and they donated it. I mean, they purchased these things. They're shut down. They're not making any money. They got the, you know, not to talk about our company, but we did a similar thing, right? We went out and bought, you know, 2,000 masks and, you know, boxes of gloves and sanitizer, and we just shipped it to all of our employees, whether they need it or not. Just shipped it out and just say, hey, you know, you need to be safe and we need to take care of you. We need to take care of the community. And so many of our owners, some of our clients followed suit and did that for their community. And I'm here to say, don't stop doing that. Don't stop finding things that you can do that show your kindness, that show you're paying it forward. This is what we are. This is what physical therapists do. This is who we are. So live that. You're going to spend 1/3 of your life sleeping, 1/3 of your life at work, and 1/3 of your life doing the fun family things and enjoyable things. You blend the other two. Blend the work and family, friend, and hobby. Make it one thing. Make it that fun. I know the people on this panel, that is what there is in the forefront of their mind. So please make that in the forefront of your mind. Second thing I'm going to share with you and wrap it up. You need highly trained, highly skilled, highly adaptable people surrounding you if you're going to be successful in business. Doesn't matter what you do. I don't care if it's a lemonade stand, Coca-Cola, physical therapy practice. Having people closest to me like Nicole, and I have a good relationship and we joke around. As you know, I'm always picking on Wisconsin for her, and maybe she does live in a suburb, I don't know. But it's a lot of fun when you go to work and you can have fun with the people you work along, and they get you, right? They get you. They get that your purpose isn't about money. They get that your purpose is to help others. They get that. And then they want to be a part of that, and they feed off that. And then you feed off of them. I mean, Nicole will keep me on the phone for 2 hours with an idea that she's conjuring up. And I'm sitting there on the other end of the phone going, good heavens, does she own this company or do I own this company? I mean, she's like off on this, we're going to create this new thing and it's going to be this and I'm going to do that. And I'm like, I can't hang up the phone. I'm like, you can't buy that. Right? You just can't. You attract it. So please, if you're watching this, surround yourself with good managers so that they get and believe in the fabric and the fiber of what you're trying to do to make a difference in your community. It's never about the money. It's always about the people. And I'll leave you with that. If you want to learn more about that, you can reach out to us. This isn't a solicit thing. We're here to help you and just give it away. Obviously, Nicole, you're giving that
Personnel management toolkit.
So
Yeah.
that's my wrap up. That's my wholehearted feeling for you. Hopefully you can take that passion and think with it in your community.
Yes, thank you, Brian. And I couldn't agree more. I feel like, and honestly, it doesn't even feel like it's just our team. It's people like you, Billy, and you, Jordan, and our MEG community. It's like you guys feel like you're part of our family that we really draw from and learn from as much as you're learning from us. So we really appreciate all your insight today. I think it's going to be helpful not only to our team here, but to all the people that are watching this on YouTube now, and hopefully that are getting some ideas of how to manage their personnel effectively. So thank you very much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody.
And thank you, everybody, for watching. Please tune in next week. We may be at a different time next week, but we'll post out when that's going to be via email. So
yeah, apparently Wisconsin's moving in another time zone or something. So this whole show
we might try a lunch hour. So we may try that out. All right. Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.